Alrighty guys, so I'm going to go ahead and get you started on your cube house design. So what you're going to need for this is a couple of sheets of paper, okay, and the two of them at least we're going to tape together to make one longer sheet. Because the drawings that you guys are using are created on particularly long sheet of paper, we've got to kind of make our own here. So apologize for that. So we're just going to take two little pieces of paper here. We're going to tape them together. And just kind of butt them against one another there. And you want to make sure you do get the ends so that they don't come up on you as you're drawing. And you want to make sure you tape the entire seam down and make sure that the whole thing is covered with a piece of tape. So you may even, just to be on the safe side, do a couple of overlapping. You don't want that to move over. Alright, so now that we have our long sheet of paper here, you're also going to need a copy of the drawing that you plan on using as your guide. Okay, now you don't have to print it out like I did. If you have a electronic device that you can use to look at while you draw, then that's fine too. Okay, we're just going to have to make a couple of assumptions as we continue to draw this project. Now I'm going to turn mine vertical because my guide picture here is longer than it is tall, so I'm going to turn that sideways. Now one of the things the assignment called for is that the building is going to be either you're doing the cube house design, which is 8 inches by 8 inches by 8 inches, or you're doing the prism, which is going to be 4 by 8 by 10. And depending on which one of those you're doing, you're going to have to kind of make sure that you have the measurements in the right areas. So doing the cube one, we know that all of them are going to be 8. So I've got my I'm going to use my seam here as my horizon line for my my building. And if you remember, this is similar to how we did our 2-point perspective boxes one before, where we did our above, below, and then building level. So I'm going to kind of start off in that same regard and start drawing my design that way. So I know that I've got from 0 to 8. Okay, and my guide kind of has their horizon line right here, and it looks like there's a good amount of, most of the building is above it, and then we've got this little part that's down below. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of, put that in the same realm or same spacing as that. Now you can see how the main corner line is a little bit off to the side, so I'm going to kind of set mine off a little bit over here. And again, we're just guesstimating. We don't have the actual measurements of this building here, so we're just going to kind of go as best we can along with it. So I'm just going to position it a good amount up above. So there's 8, and then there's 0, so I'm just going to draw my line straight down. Now you're going to have to kind of eyeball it a little bit when you're doing this, because you may or may not have the opportunity to have a straight edge to do that for you. Alright, so hope you guys can see that. So there's my first line. Okay, and now my vanishing point, most likely because of how big this building is going to be off the paper space. So what you want to do, grab your other 2 sheets of paper that you already kind of had hanging out there in the wings, and we're going to add those to the side. Now they're not going to stay, but they're just going to help us so that we can put our vanishing points on our drawing here. So I'm just going to take another little piece of tape, and I'm going to put a lot of the tape on this end, so in case I have to take that off of there, I don't end up with I don't accidentally tear it. So just kind of tape these on there. And it's okay if they're not even, but you just want to make sure that your tape is mostly on your extra pages with just a little bit of sticky on your major drawing. Alright, so now we've got room to put our vanishing points. Now I'm just going to continue this horizon line that I created with the seam of my drawing out a little bit further. So we're just going to go out just a little bit further that way. We're going to do it again this way. So that seam where those two pages came together actually worked out for us. Okay. So now I'm going to put my vanishing points here. Don't forget, you got to have those vanishing points. Okay. Make sure that those do appear on your paper space. That's going to be a huge, huge saver there. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and start making the actual shape of the cube house here. So I'm going to go from here to here, and I'm going to kind of draw lightly. Now I know in our past project, I had you guys draw this by hand, and I have to grab a longer ruler here, and that's because I made my vanishing point too far to the end there. So just kind of be careful about that. You may have to use some things to try to extend your lines just for the beginning part, just to make sure that you're reaching that vanishing point. But like I was saying, I know I had you guys drawing by hand, but since we're trying to recreate an image that's already drawn for us, we're gonna go ahead and use a ruler to kind of make sure that our lines are as straight as possible. If you were doing this on your own from your imagination, or you're creating it from your imagination, then you would probably freehand it because it's a lot faster. A ruler can kind of get in the way of that creative process sometimes. But like I said, we're using a guide. We already have a picture that's made that we're just trying to recreate, so it's not that big of a deal. Okay, so we know it's an 8 by 8 by 8 cube, right? And so we know it's 8 inches tall, and we know that it would be 8 inches wide. However, there is this bit of building that's vanishing, right? It's getting kind of smaller, but not really getting smaller, but our viewpoint is making it seem like it's getting smaller. So making it 8 inches is going to actually make it look longer. So what I need to do is make it look shorter, right? My image here kind of shows that it's, we do know that it's a cube, which means it's equal on each side, but because of the vanishing points and the way that we're looking at it, it looks like it's actually smaller here and here. So what I'm going to do to make that illusion work for me is I'm just going to take 8 and halfen it and make it 4. So I'm actually going to do that on the horizon line here and not on that vanishing point. So I'm going to put a mark here at the 0 for the 4, and then I'm going to draw a straight line up as best that I can, and I'm just going to kind of have to eyeball it. Sometimes you got to do that in architecture and eyeball them. Alright, so then now we're starting to get there. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. However, I'm not going to go as far as 4 because it's going off my page. So I'm actually going to halfen it again, and I'm going to go to 2. Actually, I'm going to take that back. I don't want to go that skinny. I'm going to go down to 3 here on this side. And the only reason I'm giving you measurements and saying things like that is because you're going to have to make some concessions as you do this, because the goal is to try to make it look as close to the original as possible, but without actually having the full-on measurements and everything on the original, then that's not going to be the case. It's not going to be as accurate as you would like. And now looking at that, I kind of think maybe I should go to Alright, so it looks like probably doing 2 inches is a good idea. Yeah, I think that'll work. Alright, so I think I actually like it at 2 more so than at 3, so I'm going to go ahead and erase that line. As a matter of fact, it might be good practice to go ahead and start getting rid of some of the lines you don't need before you start getting really line heavy on your drawing. That's why it's always a good idea to draw lightly just in case you need to erase these things. Well, because you're going to have to erase a lot of lines, actually. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, so we know that we're going to be, it's an elevated first floor. So we're going to take 1 inch and we're going to elevate the first floor, and then we have a 3/4 of an inch down for the terrace, okay? And then the remaining space is going to be for the remaining 3 floors of the building, okay? So the instructions call for us to subtract 1 inch. So we're just going to measure along the vertical line of the building 1 inch. And we're going to draw out to our vanishing point. Lightly. So that's our elevated first floor. And then we're going to come down from the top for the terrace, 3/4 of an inch. So that's right there. That there's also a foundational slab on the first floor of 1/4 of an inch. So we're going to also make sure that we leave room for that 1/4 inch slab. Okay, so between here and here, now we have 1 inch plus 3/4 of an inch plus 1/4 inch. That means 2. So 2 minus 8 leaves us with 6 inches in between. Right? So now we have 6 inches, and we know how to evenly divide our 3 floors so that we have our first, second, and third, our second, third, and fourth floors are evenly spaced apart. Okay, so in order to get that evenly spaced apart, it's going to be 2, 4, and then there we go. So now we have our 3 floors. Alright, so now all you gotta do is, you know where your other floors and stuff in there, we're just gonna lightly put them on there. They're not gonna stay, so draw them as light as you can. But it's good to know where those 2 other floors are. Okay. So we're starting to get to where our building is starting to look like our example here. So now, from here, you're going to have to start just kind of like guesstimating the distance from one line to the next to start being able to build the rest of your design. Okay? So there's no real right or wrong. What you're trying to do is just recreate it as best that you can, and just take what you see and add it accordingly. So like we've got the ground flooring here with a little bit of a slope that goes that direction. So I can draw that in as well to kind of help anchor the building. And that's just going to go from the opposite vanishing point, start at this building here, go out to the edge of the page. Same thing from here, just going to go out. Sometimes my large ruler is a little too large. Let's start erasing some of our lines so we don't get confused. So now we kind of have that ground floor plane. There's a slight slope that goes down. That is then cut off by our border. We've got some stairs that would go up. Now, the thing about doing stairs is that, it's the same as the building. All of your diagonal lines will go towards your vanishing points, and then all of the lines that go to the next riser are vertical. Example here, I've got a little bit of an overhang for my stair. That's about a couple of centimeters. So I'm just going to draw that. And that little bit of overhang comes up straight. Then the riser is kind of set deep within. Existing vertical line for the building is my guide to just draw down the riser. From there, I'm going to use my vanishing point again to the other side here to create the next top of the riser. Keep that same centimeter again, just kind of guessing. I could measure to make sure that it's always consistent, which is actually a really good idea to do. Skip a step. I'm doing stairs and then I skipped a step. Sorry about that, y'all. Oh, it's probably not that funny. This should actually come out, and that's what I missed. So from the riser, this comes over, obviously, because that's where the next stair needs to be. soon you'll start to make sense. You do your next hidden riser. I do recommend that you make your stairs a consistent measurement. You determine what the height of those stairs is going to be and make them consistent. Otherwise, your stairs are going to end up looking strange. I haven't been doing it and it's just so I can get through the video a lot faster. But I recommend highly that you do, in fact, do that. So you guys can hopefully see after I do this third one how the pattern to make these things. You're going to have to go to the opposite side once you create that next riser. So make sure you line up your corner there. Magically you start making some stairs. So hopefully this is starting to make sense, and once you start like getting a couple of structures that work out for you under your belt, this is going to start going really well. Okay, so you've got like some little cut-in structures here, you've got like this part of the building that's kind of coming in, so then you draw your straight line. Use your vanishing points to kind of help show that depth. Go opposite to show the thickness because it is a cut in to the building. Apply down here at the bottom. You gotta go opposite so you can see that cut in. And now we're gonna go on the opposite side of the building because it kind of cuts through, but not all the way. We'll stop right about there. Use your best judgment as far as how long that's going to go. And just continue drawing it the best you can. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and work on your drawing. I might continue working on mine, but I hope that this helped to get you started on how to create or recreate the cube house design. You don't need to worry about the facades and things on this and the isometric drawing over here. We're only focusing on this guy. We'll get into these things in a little bit later. I just wanted to get you guys in the realm of creating three-dimensional sculptures, buildings out of simple objects and things like that. So hopefully this gets you started. I know this video is running kind of long. That's why I want you guys to be able to get started on your drawings. Don't forget, you will be adding in all the different hatchings and things like that to help create the illusions of depth. If you have any questions, definitely email me or contact me in our Zoom classroom, and I will see you in the next video.